I love it. Okay.
Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Um, Hello, everyone. I am thrilled to be back with another producer interviews in my producer interview series today with Erin Rodgers. Hi, Erin. How's it
Hi.
going?
I'm so excited to be here.
Cool. I'm so glad to have you. Um, we are friends. We both live in Toronto. We both are producing our own shows, and I wanted to ask you a few questions about where you're at. This is February 2021. A lot has happened in a year. Let me start by introducing you. So you are a storyteller, a writer, and a workshop facilitator. You love to help others find and share their stories. You are so good at it. Despite his decades-long fame, you still think Billy Joel is underrated. And you create story events with your producing partner, Zach Stewart, who is in Boston. So what are you up to these days in storytelling?
Oh, I am lucky enough to be up to a bunch of different things. Um, COVID has been incredibly difficult, and I come from a live storytelling background. I've done a bunch of shows over the years. I did a show called Awkward. That was my first show. It was comedic stories. I did a show called Story Star for a while, where I chose a lot of my favorite storytellers. And I just kind of thought it was all over when COVID came. And then I was lucky enough to know you and to kind of bring it online, which means I can do all kinds of experiments, including I had a show for a while called Met Through Twitter, where I had at least one storyteller that I had only known online. And then I met the delightful Zach Stewart in Boston through a show called 99 Second Story Slam by Sean Wellington, and I met this whole community of international storytellers, a lot from the States, and I just hit it off with quite a few people. So Zach and I decided we wanted to do a comedic storytelling show. Our first show was a few weeks ago, and it was all stories about crushes. We have one coming up that's vacation stories. We wanted to have, because we both love funny stories, we wanted to have a chance to both hear funny stories and tell funny stories and raise money for good organizations that we believe in. So we were able to raise about $1,300 for Rainbow Railroad, which is an amazing organization that helps LGBTQ plus people from all over the world. There are lots of problems in Canada, but there isn't the same state-sponsored violence in Canada there are in other countries. So Rainbow Railroad brings people over to Canada so they can live the life that they should be, they have the freedom to love and be themselves. And so I was able to take storytelling and make it this vehicle for connection and also a vehicle to help people with money to be able to donate to causes that Zach and I both really believe in.
Yeah.
I have a couple of different things on the pipeline that I'm figuring out right now that I'll be announcing soon. Follow me on social media. But one of the things that I've been amazed about, and a lot of it is from you, Brune, is the amount of things that you can do online with storytelling and how important it's become for so many of us to have that connection. I think all of us, especially storytellers, miss that kind of connection you get face to face, but through someone's story, it's like you're living through something with them, you're experiencing something with them, and you're connected in a way that's very special and unique. And so I don't know what my mental health would be, honestly, without these kind of experiences and these shows that have been brought into my life by a lot of different people all over the world. It's been incredible, and I'm excited to contribute to that in as many ways as I can, and also to encourage people to try storytelling. Now that it's online, you don't have to worry about finding a show in your hometown. If you live somewhere that doesn't have a storytelling scene, good news. You can go to somewhere else, you can go all over the world, or you can create your own show. It's a
Yes.
very low bar. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Do you have a Zoom account? Great. Can you get people to record something and put it on your YouTube channel? Fantastic. If someone has a phone and connection to the internet, they can create their own show however they want it. And that's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh my God. Thank you so much. You also have a YouTube channel where you interview people who are in storytelling, so to speak, and you ask them a few questions. And you just interviewed me, and I didn't tell you that, but I wanted to maybe ask you sort of the same questions, because you keep asking those questions to a bunch of different people and they're so interesting, and no one asks you, so I am going to ask you.
Oh, I love it.
So Erin Rodgers, first question, what do you focus on the most? What's the most important thing for you in storytelling?
For me, I think the most important thing is how someone's changed. I think both as a person who listens to stories and just as a person in the world, seeing that people can change in big and small ways. My favorite stories are small changes that make a big difference, because I think it's very easy to forget all the things we learn and all the ways we change. With clients regularly, I have people say, oh, well, I don't have any stories. Or honestly, people I meet, because I always want to hear everyone's stories. And people will say, well, I haven't done anything interesting. If you have lived your life, and we all have, you have a lot of stories. And I think it's unfortunate. I'm a pop culture person. I love TV. Honestly, if I could, I would have a photo of my childhood TV framed and on my wall. I love TV and movies, but I think that we have developed this idea that there is one group of people that can tell their stories because they're experts, and then there is everyone else.
Yeah.
And if I could, I would give just about anything to hear the stories of lots of people that I've lost in my life. I want to hear my grandmother's stories. I want to hear my great aunt, like, she would tell these stories about going to a baseball game and just her experiences. She was a nun and she was passionate about baseball, and I miss those stories. And they were so small, but they were so important, and they taught me so much about her and the world and her point of view. And they just aren't accessible anymore. And I feel like everyone, whether you have kids, they're going to want to hear your stories, like your friends, everyone, in my experience, has this thought that they're not important in some way. Mm-hmm. So their stories aren't important. And let me tell you, we're all important. And I want to know about your point of view, and I want to learn from you and cry with you and laugh with you. I want to see how you changed, and I want to see how that change worked for you. So that's the thing to me, is both it is a lovely experience to hear that, and it's also the constant promise that things will be better, that things can be better, and that the small changes are just as important as the big changes, and the small changes are what bring us the big changes. Stories give me hope, and the change moment in stories, that's what gets me up in the morning.
That's so good.
Thank you. So good. By the way, I'm very long-winded, so you're welcome, everyone.
That's so good. Okay, so next question. What tip do you have for new storytellers?
I think one of the things is just give it a try. I did not the Toronto Fringe. I did the Winnipeg Fringe several years ago with a local storyteller and story producer, Marcia Shandor, who is a very close friend of mine, and directed the show. And we had a great time doing the show. But one of our favorite things was we would go to the bar and people would talk. Like, Winnipeg is super passionate about theater. By the way, I love you, Winnipeg. I love you forever. But people wait all year for the Fringe. And we would be talking in the bar and people would be like, oh, I could never do that. was like, do what? Oh, I can never tell a story. I can never do that. Like, sure, if you want to, you can. And also, you just get better. Like, don't expect yourself to be, at this level right away. I think that scares people.
Yeah.
Is if you go up there and you tell something that is important to you, people are automatically going to be interested in that. Is if you share your truth in a way that is kind and honest. So don't like dump a whole bunch of stuff on an audience if you're not finished with it yet, because that's not being kind to an audience or yourself.
Yeah.
You haven't taken care of it yet. It could actually be bad for you. But if you just go up and like are sharing your truth and sharing something about you, it is automatically captivating.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it is. All right, great. And so would you have a tip for experienced storytellers?
I think my tip is, and this is the tip that you just gave, really, is just like let other people know about it. Especially the world is full of fascinating people, like kind, interesting, funny, silly. Uh, they can share something sad and beautiful. It doesn't have to be a thing where it is a space for just performers. I think one of the duties that we have, and maybe this is overstating it, as people who have been given the gift of the storytelling community, is to bring other people in, to encourage them, and to give them a space. It's one of the things that I love about your show and a lot of shows is it's not all people that have been doing shows for years. It's newer people, bringing them in, giving them a chance, and like basically if they're scared, giving them advice, listening to them, and helping them kind of form everything. I really want there to be, there's a bit of a debate that I've heard about that is like, do we want storytelling where there is the legends, there is the Billy Joel of storytelling, and then, do we want to make sure that there's these big names, or do we want to nurture everyone? And I think there's space for both. So what if we just created more spaces? Because you know how Billy Joel got to be Billy Joel? Yes, I love Billy Joel. He played a lot of piano bars and he built himself up. And I think it's the same with storytelling, is people need that place to work on their craft. But also, I want there to be a place for people who are wanting to kind of go to the next level. They have, they're working on a particular voice. They want to kind of learn from other people that are doing the same thing. I want there to be a space for everyone. So that's my very extra long-winded answer.
Perfect. And I think we can all learn from Billy Joel, whatever stage of life we're at, right? Okay, one last question. So do you come from stand-up, or like what relationship do you have with stand-up as opposed to storytelling or a long storytelling? How do you this bring them together, or yeah.
Great question. So for me, I probably edit that weird burp out, but anyway, speaking of comedy and storytelling, so my dad was an amateur stand-up. He's a very, very funny guy. And so I was exposed to a lot of comedians really early. Like my dad would kind of sit me in front of records and I would listen to them obsessively. And a lot of my favorite comedians were storytellers, which is something I figured out later. And so I did comedy for years. I did sketch, I did stand-up, I've done all kinds of different things. And I love stand-up. I was finding some of the stuff, especially about 10 years ago, in the open mic scene, there was a lot of stand-up that seemed to be about pushing your emotions away, where it's just like, oh yeah, nothing bothers me. Let me say like a bunch of stuff to show how shocking I am. And there's some people that do that really well, and they're very funny. And there's a lot of people who I think were trying to be that. And it was starting to wear me down. So I would go to stand-up shows and just kind of hear the same stuff that was just like racist and homophobic and that sort of thing. And it wasn't, I think people maybe thought they were making a statement, but it wasn't, they didn't do enough work to make it clear that they weren't just spouting the same nonsense. Like my friend Kat McCormick once described edgy comics as, that type of edgy comic is like, if that's an edgy comic, then my grandfather is the edgiest comic of all time. It was just that same stuff without any art to it. And so I would go home and basically lie down on the ground and stare at the ceiling. And I will say this, I have said some jokes that I am now horrified by. I am not a magical innocent in that. But I started to realize that what I loved about comedy was connecting and looking at thoughts and ideas, but also with emotion. And then the same Kat McCormick did a show that was a storytelling show. It was the Moth Up at that time. It became Raconteurs. And I saw that show to support her. She's a very good friend of mine. And I was just like, oh my, it can be this. Like you can tell funny stories, and suddenly I was all in and trying to figure out how to make that happen. And I had a show called Awkward, and then I went on from there. And I realized with storytelling, it was all the stuff I loved about comedy. It was questioning things, and your job is to think. I read that Chris Rock said that once. As a comedian, your job is to think and question. But to add the emotional part in it and the change part, it made, one, on a selfish note, it made all my jokes funnier. People thought I was much funnier when I was doing storytelling and am doing storytelling than when I was doing stand-up. And I could also bring in all those elements in a way that made everything stronger, and it made it stick with people. There's a stand-up who's also a storyteller in the States. He's in New York. His name is Jeff Zimmerman, and S with an S, not with a Z. And he said once that if you tell jokes, someone will remember your jokes. But if you tell a story, they'll remember you. And so it just makes sense. If you want people to connect with you, having that emotion piece, it just makes it stronger. So even if, just on a selfish note, if you want to be remembered, tell stories. So yeah, that is, it's been a journey, and it was basically like falling in love. I feel like my experience with storytelling and with story producing has been a rom-com where I was like, I don't know about this. And then it all came together, and I just kind of had this moment where I was like, so yeah, it's storytelling to me brings all the most important things to me from a lot of performing arts together in one thing. And also you can just stand with a microphone somewhere and there you go. And you can make something beautiful. So it's also a very low barrier for cost as well.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, okay. This is all so, this is gold. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you.
By the way, I want to tell people that you mentioned Marsha Shander before. I interviewed her on the channel as well, because she produces her own storytelling show, True Stories Told Live Toronto. So you can go watch that as well. And any last words?
I am so happy that both storytelling and the storytelling community has brought me so many wonderful people. And I'm going to be embarrassing for a second. You are one, like, I might not have ever met you without storytelling, and you're such an important part of my life, and have also helped me to create these storytelling experiences. You trained me in how to do Zoom and how to really make people feel comfortable and safe in a way that we used to be able to in a room, and it can be harder online. So thank you. And also thank you to my local community and my now world community. Storytelling has brought me so much, and I just feel lucky that it chose me. It's a miracle. It really is. I'm so cheesy.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Likewise. And thank you so much for talking to me today, everyone. I will put Erin Rodgers' links in the thing below on Instagram, Facebook, and also your YouTube channel with all your wonderful, most important thing interviews. And I will see you very soon. Thanks, Erin.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.